Most people begin their journey toward change with fire in their chest and emotion in their voice. They feel that spark, that rush of energy when they say, "This time, I'm going to do it." Right. For a moment, it feels real. You feel powerful, alive, unstoppable. But then, life happens. Distractions, setbacks, doubts, and the fire begins to dim. That initial burst of emotion, that excitement that once seemed infinite, begins to fade into the background noise of daily life. The truth is, emotion is never enough. Emotion is the ignition, but it cannot sustain the engine. Emotion gives you the desire to begin, but it's intention that gives you the power to continue, to be truly committed. Means you must learn to move beyond the emotion of wanting something and into the intention of becoming someone. Emotion says, "I feel like doing it today." Intention says, "I will do it no matter what I feel." The people who transform their lives, the ones who create new realities and sustain lasting success, are not the ones who depend on feeling good every day. They are the ones who decide that their purpose is greater than their mood. They understand that real commitment begins when the feeling ends. You see, emotions are temporary chemical states in the body. They rise, they fall, and they change depending on what's happening around you. Intention, however, is a state of consciousness, a deliberate alignment of your mind, your energy, and your vision. When you rely on emotion, you are reactive. You're waiting to feel inspired before you act. But when you live through intention, you become proactive. You act in alignment with the future you are creating, not the mood you are in right now. The brain doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what you experience. When you visualize your goals, when you picture yourself already living that life, you begin to fire new neural pathways. Each repetition strengthens that connection. But here's where most people stop. They feel good during the visualization, but then they go back to living as their old self. They feel motivated in the morning, then defeated by evening. Their energy swings up and down because their focus is rooted in emotion, not in identity. To be committed, you must bring your focus back to intention every single day. You must ask yourself, who am I being right now? And is this version of me aligned with where I'm going? When you set an intention, you are giving your mind a command. You're telling it, this is who I am now. The body might not believe it yet. The old habits might resist it. But if you stay consistent in the intention, the body will eventually follow the mind. Your nervous system begins to adapt. Your subconscious starts to align, and your external world mirrors that inner conviction. That's when you stop being someone who tries, and you start becoming someone who is. Think about every time you've made a promise to yourself that you didn't keep. You felt the emotion when you made it, the excitement, the hope, the belief. But then you broke it when the emotion disappeared. Each time that happens, you teach your subconscious that your word means nothing. You lose trust in yourself. But when you honor your commitments, even when the feeling fades, you begin to rebuild that inner trust. The body starts to believe the mind again. You start to become coherent. Your thoughts, actions, and emotions begin to move in harmony. That's where real power begins. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering them. When you feel resistance, fear, or doubt, instead of reacting, you observe. You pause, breathe, and bring your awareness back to your intention. You remind yourself why you started. The emotional storm might still be there, but now you are no longer driven by it. You are the calm in the center of it. Every time you choose intention over emotion, you rewire your brain for discipline. You train your mind to lead instead of follow. Commitment isn't built in moments of excitement. It's forged in the quiet spaces where no one's watching, where the only voice left to guide you is your own. That's where intention lives. It's when you get up early, even when you're tired, when you keep showing up, even when it doesn't feel rewarding, when you say yes to growth, even when it's uncomfortable. These moments become the evidence that shapes your new identity. And when your identity changes, your reality has no choice but to follow. The shift from emotion to intention is the foundation of all transformation. Because once your intention is set, everything around you begins to align. You'll notice synchronicities, people, opportunities, and ideas showing up at just the right time. It's not luck. It's coherence. The energy you emit through your unwavering commitment begins to attract the experiences that match it. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying them. That's the moment when being committed becomes natural, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Every person who decides to change enters into an invisible battle, a battle not against the world, not against circumstances, but against their own identity. The moment you commit to a higher version of yourself, your old self begins to fight back. It resists, it argues, it whispers. It tells you stories about why you can't, why it's too late, why you failed before, and why this time will be no different. That voice isn't evil. It's familiar. It's the echo of who you used to be, trying to protect itself from extinction. Because every transformation requires the death of the old self. And the old self does not die quietly. This internal battle is the reason most people never follow through. They think failure comes from lack of skill or opportunity, but it begins much deeper. It begins when the old self convinces you that comfort is safety. It happens when your brain, wired for predictability, pulls you back to old habits because it's scared of uncertainty. The old self thrives in repetition. It knows what to expect, even if what it expects is pain or limitation. But the new self, the one you are trying to become, lives in the unknown. It's a version of you that doesn't yet exist in memory, so the mind can't predict it. And that's what makes it uncomfortable. Every time you make a new choice, you interrupt an old pattern. Your brain lights up differently, firing neurons that haven't worked together before. The body, trained by years of habits, begins to protest. You might feel anxious, tired, or unmotivated, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're entering unfamiliar territory. The body wants to return to the predictable chemical states of the past, where it knew what emotions to expect. This is why change feels like resistance. It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that the battle has begun. The old self will use your past as a weapon. It will remind you of every time you quit, every time you said you'd change but didn't. It will play those memories like a movie in your mind, trying to convince you that your future will look the same. But here's the truth. Those memories are just programs. They are not destiny. They are rehearsed patterns of thought that you've replayed so many times that your brain believes they are facts. The way out is awareness. The moment you become aware that you are not your thoughts, you weaken the control of the old self. Awareness is the light that dissolves the illusion of limitation. The new self is not created overnight. It's built moment by moment, decision by decision. Every time you act in alignment with your new identity, even in the smallest ways, you strengthen its presence. When you choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, growth over comfort, you are literally reprogramming your mind. Your neural connections begin to favor the new pathways. Over time, what once felt unnatural becomes automatic. The brain starts to recognize this new pattern as safe, and the body begins to follow. But the transition between the two selves is often messy. There will be moments where you feel like you're at war within yourself. One part of you wants to evolve, the other wants to stay the same. You'll wake up some mornings filled with purpose and others filled with doubt. You'll question whether you're making progress at all. That's when you must remember, transformation doesn't look like perfection. It looks like persistence. The struggle itself is evidence that growth is happening. You are not failing. You are simply shedding layers of who you no longer need to be. The battle between the old self and the new self isn't about force. It's about surrender. Not surrendering to weakness, but surrendering to truth. You have to let go of the need to control how it all unfolds and instead trust the process of becoming. The old self thrives on control. It needs certainty, rules, predictability. The new self moves with flow, awareness, and faith. To commit to change means to stop fighting with yourself and start aligning with the vision of who you are meant to become. When you close your eyes and visualize your future self calm, confident, successful, disciplined, you begin to create a blueprint in your mind. The more vividly you imagine it, the more your brain wires that image as reality. But the real work begins when you open your eyes and act as that person, even when it feels unnatural. At first, it feels like pretending. But pretending with purpose is practice. Eventually, your thoughts, emotions, and body begin to synchronize with that image. The new self stops being an idea and starts becoming your default state. The old self will keep testing you. It will show up in the form of old habits, familiar temptations, and people who remind you of who you were. Each time you face these triggers, you are being given an opportunity to choose again, to prove to your subconscious that you no longer belong to that version of yourself. Consistency is not just about routine. It is about resonance. It's the alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and actions over time that generates a powerful field of momentum. Every time you show up, even in the smallest way, you send a signal to the universe that you are serious about who you are becoming. That signal begins to gather energy. It starts as a ripple, but with time and repetition, it grows into a wave. That wave is called coherence, the harmony between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. When those three forces move together, you become magnetic to the reality you desire. Most people mistake consistency for repetition. They think it's about doing the same thing every day until something changes. But true consistency is not mechanical. It's energetic. It's not about doing more. It's about doing from a place of alignment. If you wake up every day and take action with resentment, fear, or doubt, you are still being consistent, but with the energy of resistance. That kind of consistency only strengthens the old self. The energy of consistency that transforms your life comes from intention. It's the state where your actions reflect the energy of your desired future, not the memory of your past. Think of your body and mind like two instruments. The mind sets the tone, the thought, the vision, the idea. The body plays the rhythm, the habits, the movement, the behavior. When these two instruments are out of sync, life feels chaotic. You think one thing, feel another, and do something else entirely. That misalignment creates incoherence, and incoherence drains your energy. But when the mind and body are tuned to the same frequency, when your thoughts support your actions and your emotions fuel your discipline, you begin to create harmony. That harmony is the energy of consistency. Every time you act in alignment with your intention, even when it's uncomfortable, your body begins to trust your mind again. You rebuild integrity within yourself. You no longer rely on motivation to act. You act because it's who you are. Each act of consistency strengthens a neural pathway in the brain. At first, those pathways are fragile, easily overridden by distraction or doubt. But with repetition, they become dominant. What once felt like effort becomes effortless. That's the power of energy sustained over time. It transforms discipline into identity. The energy of consistency is not built through perfection. It's built through presence. It's not about doing everything right, but about doing everything with awareness. When you show up consciously, you bring energy into the moment. You might still make mistakes, but you're learning, adjusting, growing. You're staying awake to your choices instead of moving through life on autopilot. That awareness keeps your energy clean. It prevents you from falling into the old patterns of guilt, shame, or self-sabotage that drain your momentum. The reason most people lose consistency is because they try to build it from effort instead of energy. They push, force, and grind, thinking that sheer willpower will carry them to success. But willpower is a limited resource. It runs out. Energy, however, can be renewed. When you operate from intention, gratitude, and alignment, you tap into an endless current. You stop chasing outcomes and start flowing with purpose. Consistency then stops being a chore and becomes an expression of who you are becoming. Imagine each day as a brick, and your goal as the structure you are building. One brick by itself means nothing, but when you place it with care, focus, and intention every single day, eventually a masterpiece begins to take form. Most people quit before the structure becomes visible. They look at their effort and see no reward. But what they don't realize is that consistency works in silence. It builds unseen foundations. It's only when the structure reaches a certain height that the results become undeniable. There is an energy that comes from simply keeping your word to yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, you raise your frequency. Your body starts to feel lighter, your mind clearer, your emotions steadier. This is not magic. It's biology. The body releases dopamine and serotonin in response to integrity, the sense that you can trust yourself. That trust becomes fuel, and that fuel turns into power, because now you are not waiting for external motivation. You are generating it from within. Consistency also teaches patience. It trains you to detach from instant gratification and trust the process. The universe does not reward sporadic effort. It responds to sustained energy. When your frequency remains steady, opportunities begin to find you. You start to notice synchronicities, the right people, the right timing, the right doors opening. This isn't coincidence. It's coherence. Your consistent energy sends a clear signal, and the universe reflects it back in the form of aligned circumstances. The energy of consistency also rewires your emotional landscape. When you show up daily, regardless of mood, you weaken the control emotions have over your behavior. You stop letting fleeting feelings dictate your destiny. The body learns that it can feel discomfort and still act. That realization is liberation. It breaks the cycle of procrastination, self-doubt, and hesitation that keeps so many trapped in the same patterns. You begin to act not because you feel ready, but because you are committed. And that decision alone raises your vibration to match the frequency of your desired reality. Eventually, consistency turns into momentum, and momentum turns into transformation. You start to experience yourself differently. The gap between who you were and who you're becoming starts to close. The old self loses power because it feeds on inconsistency, on your moments of hesitation. But as you maintain the rhythm of aligned action, the new self becomes dominant. Each day becomes a statement of identity, a declaration that you are not waiting for life to change. You are changing life through your energy. Every great transformation begins in the mind long before it becomes visible in the world. To truly be committed means to stop waiting for external proof of change and start living as if your desired reality already exists. This is the essence of becoming the future you, not someday, not when the conditions are perfect, but right now, in this very moment. The mind is the architect of reality. What you consistently think and emotionally rehearse becomes the blueprint that your life begins to follow. Most people believe they must first achieve something to feel successful, confident, or fulfilled. But it works the other way around. You must first feel those emotions before the external world can mirror them back to you. Every thought you think sends a signal out into the field around you. And every emotion you feel draws an experience back to match that signal. When your thoughts and feelings are in conflict, when you think about your goals but feel unworthy, fearful, or doubtful, you emit mixed frequencies. The universe responds not to what you say you want, but to what you consistently vibrate. To become the future you must create coherence between your thoughts and emotions, between your vision and your vibration. This is not pretending. It is embodying. Pretending is acting without belief. Embodiment is believing so deeply that the body and mind begin to move as one. You cannot wait for success to feel confident. You must become confident to attract success. You cannot wait for love to feel worthy. You must become worthy to draw in love. You cannot wait for abundance to feel grateful. You must become gratitude itself. This is the creative process of life, not waiting for outer change, but generating inner change until reality has no choice but to reflect it. When you begin to live this way, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a creator of them. The world no longer happens to you. It happens through you. The greatest trap most people fall into is living by memory instead of vision. They wake up every day thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and performing the same behaviors as yesterday. Their body has become a map of the past, and the past keeps repeating itself. The future cannot emerge because there is no room for it in a mind occupied by repetition. Becoming the future you requires stepping into the unknown. It means feeling emotions your body isn't yet used to. It means thinking beyond your circumstances and training your nervous system to feel safe in unfamiliar territory. The moment you begin to feel the emotions of your desired future joy, freedom, peace, strength, your brain starts to rewire itself. It begins to form neural connections that mirror that new state of being. The body at first will resist this process. It will want to return to familiar feelings, even if those feelings are negative. The body only knows what it has memorized. But through repetition and awareness, you can teach it a new language, the language of your future self. When you meditate, visualize, or simply pause and imagine your ideal life with emotion and clarity, you are installing that future into your subconscious. The more real it feels internally, the faster it begins to manifest externally. Because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. It only knows what you repeatedly tell it to believe. To become the future you now means living in that state of alignment every day. It means acting as the person who already has what they desire. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, how would the future me respond? When doubt arises, ask, what would the version of me who has already achieved this believe?